Chapter 15, Carrier of Words. We stepped out of the vehicle at the end of the road. Immediately, our body sent one, that our decision to visit the sand too. In the afternoon was insane. We had passed a few 3, on our way to the desert. We could not find even a single soul outdoors 4, the blazing sun. Even the camels were 5. In the little shade offered by the kedri trees, in this remote place people relied on Bharat Sanchar Nigam Limited, BSNL, to connect to the world as the area was 6 of any other network service. Though we are just a click away from sending mail at present, can you imagine how it was before the internet became the way of life? The mail was dropped in the post box, then through the postal system finally, it was delivered by the postman in our letter box. The areas beyond the last railhead, and after the road crumbles into sand, Graman Dak Suex still serve as the sole link between the oases of humanity in India's extremes and their faraway families. Ketaram is a Graman Dak Suek. His left shoulder slumped from years of carrying a mailbag. He is the sole postman of Samarad Branch Post Office. For the last 15 years, he has been a trusted link between the people attached to this Rajasthani village post office and their families. Defying all elements of the harshest desert of India, the Thar, he is the lone face of the state who reaches the far-flung hamlets, or Danis, of this remote area just 5 km short of the Indo-Pakistan border. Some 120 km beyond the last railhead at Barmer, 50 km beyond the last phone and 10 km beyond, where the Barmer-Chotan road directionlessly crumbles into sand so soft that even bicycles can't ply. That's where Ketaram's footprints appear along sand beds and dunes. It is his bodily effort that ensures that the mail transferred from the mail train onto buses, before being hefted onto his shoulders, is delivered at the border, within 24 hours of dispatch from Jodhpur, around 330 km away. Often, the impression of his footprints reveals the weight of his mailbag. Regulations stipulate that his load cannot exceed 28 kilos. But in the summers, when the sands sizzle under his Madri-clad feet, Ketaram says, even a single delivery is tiring, as I have to cover 20 km for it. He delivers even on days when his body sends blazing signals that the temperature has crossed degrees Celsius, but is recorded as 49.9 degrees Celsius, since 50 degrees Celsius would mean a state holiday. Sometimes severe heat forces him to postpone deliveries till after sundown. Footwear of Rajasthan. On other days, his khaki turban and uniform are his only protection against the desert's furies, the scorching summer winds and swirling sandstorms which turn him into a walking sandman. Water is too precious to waste on washing, so I can only wipe my body. When I finish, there is a sand dune at my feet every evening, he says. Till 2001, Ketaram was known as a delivery agent, operating in rural areas devoid of schools and primary healthcare centers. Since then, India's 3 lakh+ delivery agents like Ketaram were accepted as Graman Dak Suex, GDS, who constitute more than 50% of the total workforce. The frozen desert of Ladakh, the Isles of Lakshadweep, and the riverine communities of the Northeast are all GDS territories. The role of GDS is invaluable, since they deliver in interior areas that are often inaccessible by any means besides foot, explains the Postmaster General of Rajasthan Western Region. River Bank. Carrier of words, unlike the British postal system set up in India to relay Company DAC between administrative centers. After independence, the mandate of India Post was to bring the entire population within the mailing ambit. Compared to 25,000 post offices in 1947, today we have about more than 1.5 lakh post offices throughout the country. Through the GDS, India Post has also been able to reach rural depositors, who entrust their monthly savings to the post office in their area. Every post office in the country has many operational accounts of the people, which reflects their trust in the postal system. Check your understanding. Ketaram needs to submit information about himself for getting an identity card. While reading the text, fill up the following information sheet for Ketaram. Name, Ketaram, position, employer, official address, mode of transport, used key responsibilities, VVVV, Roman 2, discuss with your teacher. 1. Why do you think Ketaram has taken up this challenging job? 2. How do you think Ketaram would feel about taking up this challenging task every day? The essential criterion for GDS selection is access to another means of livelihood. They are required to work only 5 hours in a day and are also allowed to serve after the age of 60, till the age of 65. All this is so that they can be paid a salary to enable them to have an assured income. The salary of regular postmen gets revised as the other government employees. Only by applying such different conditions could we retain a large workforce of Graham Dak Suaks to serve remote outposts, explains a postmaster. Ketaram's appointment more than a decade ago gave him a new lease of life. Akal or famine is a way of life here. In a good year, I get 1 crop of bajra. That cannot feed my family of 5. We would starve without this job, he says. And for each family which resides in this arid land, survival is partly dependent on money orders remitted by a relative. When writing about the social significance of the money order in his book, Story of the Indian Post Office, Mulk Raj Anand says, "In no other country a person in remote villages is so dependent on the post office for transmission of small sums of money. It reflects the absolute confidence which most Indians place in the post office." In fact, a few years ago, a scheme to scrap the GDS and TR ants for the job to Patwaris, village record keepers, was proposed and summarily rejected. "We knew they would not be able to do the job," says Bud Singh, a village elder. Such aspects of trust make Ketaram a warmly received man. He can dwell on any threshold, read out letters and write replies in his slightly shaky hand. Stay on for some time home. Carrier of words, everyone feels comfortable asking him to read the letters and draft the replies. "People are kind to me. The BSF always gives me a lift. Since their camp came here last year, when I distribute their dak, I get a cup of tea." In the village, a piece of jaggery is all that can be offered when he brings news of a birth or weddings. There is one letter delivery he dreads, the envelope with the right corner torn off, which signifies that the missive bears news of death. "Ashab Samachar cannot be carried into the house," says Ketaram, so he stands outside, reads out the letter twice, then tears it to bits. "Bad news must be destroyed," he mutters philosophically. Today, after more than a decade and a half of bearing words across this desolate geography, Ketaram says his spine is strong. "I am grateful that as a Graham Dak Suak, I can serve the people even after 60. He is waiting for the arrival of security force. Phone lines, now only 50 km away, for then he might become Graham Sanchar Suak, when his duty will entail carrying a cell phone and the post from home to home. "Main Tayarhun, I'm ready," he says, before striding off with his sack on his shoulder to deliver Panna Devi's dak before sundown. Written by Anonymous,